All right, and we're live. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Bible Belt Atheists. And today we're going to be talking with Hopswatch here about a cult leader from Denmark who just set up camp actually about just over an hour away from where I live. So be talking to him, kind of getting some information and finding out about Torben, how do you pronounce his last name?
In Danish, it's Søndergaard, but just call him Søndergaard. That's fine. I do that myself in my videos.
Okay, so Torben Søndergaard. So we'll be talking about him a little bit, and be interesting considering he lives, like I said, about an hour drive from where I live. So, but before we get into talking about Torben, Hopswatch, why don't y'all? I can't talk. Why don't you introduce us to yourself and what you do on your channel?
Yeah, sure. I'm Hopswatch. Cheers, everyone. I mostly do beer reviews on my channel. The channel's name is Hopswatch, as it is spelled on my tag, and I do beer reviews, and I also do a bit of political stuff, a bit of sciencey stuff, and the story about Torben and what he is doing has become the other big thing on my channel, and it's slowly growing bigger than the beers even. So yeah, that's what I do. I also try to always make it a bit entertaining. Got small gimmicks, kind of lame jokes on the way. So yeah, that's it.
All right. So, and if you want to, not if you want, you should go ahead and subscribe to Hopswatch. The link to his channel is in the description down below, as well as the link to his Twitter. So go ahead and follow him on there. So let's go ahead. How about you give us a little bit of background behind Torben?
Yes, I can definitely do that. So he goes way back, actually. Just to tell recent news, what he did during the past year or so, to get a little background of why he came to the United States. So he's a cult leader through many years in Denmark, and he has had many different church and smaller church projects over the years. The biggest one being his present cult, his present church, if you like, which he calls the Last Reformation, founded in 2012 as the international outreach of a website he had, basically a website which were coordinating activities of a number of free churches in Denmark, and that project was called Oplev Jesus. That means experience Jesus. So the Last Reformation was kind of the international outreach on top of that. It had some success, contrary to many of his former projects. He leaves behind him a trail of abandoned and, well, crashed, so to say directly, projects. He made a number of smaller churches. He made a number of businesses related to Christianity. He had a Jesus shop. He had a Jesus have it all scribbled down here. There are loads of stuff. He had a Jesus clinic. He had a project called Jesus Teams, all closed within a year, either because of bad finance or didn't gain supporters. Jesus Teams was meant to be a teaching project, and Torben Søndergaard was completely inept at teaching, so that crashed because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2012, he actually manages to start something that has shown to have had a significant lifespan of now 7 years. The Last Reformation kept home in Denmark. The base of that organization was still in Denmark, and actually that would be more like a 5-minute drive from where I live. I live in northwestern Denmark, in the town of Thisted, and it was near a small village which is near Thisted. It's called Hundborg, where he had rented a boarding school and a boarding school of athletics as his called compound. That's a story in itself also. And he, when he had stayed there and using that as a center for the Last Reformation, which has actually a global outreach. There are people who are associates with the Last Reformation in such places as Australia, and already then they were also in the United States, Canada, Eastern Europe, South Africa. So he has always had a huge outreach, yet with the center still in Denmark. So in the beginning of this year, actually, on the 2nd of January, the first in a series of 3 documentaries, or it was it was a documentary series on a national Danish TV channel that made him like really famous here. You would only know who he was if you were interested in cults. I knew him from way back. That's a bit of a different story. We can come back to that. So this documentary on the national TV channel, it was called TV2. He is accused of a number of things. First of all, the whole documentary is made to criticize cults in Denmark, obscure religious organizations who lure people off their money. Some of these organizations were also doing sexual abuse to minors. Some were even abducting children. Torben hasn't done this though, and Torben was particularly accused for doing exorcism and faith healing on children. The faith healing in itself also being a point of criticism, as he actually encouraged mentally ill people to ditch their medication after they had undergone so-called faith healing in his cult.
Wow.
So that was the documentary and what that was all about. After the documentary, he is evicted by the landlord, the one who owns the cult compound. As I said, he had rented that, and he's evicted from there. The landlord was actually a member of his organization as well before that. That's also an interesting story in itself. And he kind of says that he flees to the United States. He doesn't really. He of course he is extremely unpopular, but he isn't persecuted or anything. It's not like, or for that sake, neither is he prosecuted for anything. He's not under investigation in any way, but he goes to the United States to continue his activities there.
Mm-hmm.
About half a year later, he posts a video on YouTube, and that's picked up by one of the large Danish newspapers, the Tabloid. It's half an hour long or so, the video, or even 40 minutes long or something. And this is where Torben Søndergaard tells that he is now seeking asylum in the United States because he feels ever so persecuted in Denmark because of the bad publicity he got because of the documentary. Of course, he isn't. There's no reason for him to seek asylum. As I said before, he's neither persecuted nor prosecuted for anything. As an excuse for seeking asylum, he tells about a new Danish law that was voted through a quarter of a year ago, approximately, that would punish mental violence just as hard as physical violence. And he claims that the law about mental violence is directly targeted at him and targeted at his organization, which it isn't. If you just look a little bit into the law and the motivation for it, you see that there are all kinds of motivations. In one parliamentary, in the judicial committee of the parliament, faith healing is mentioned. And that's the only time that faith healing and those practices are mentioned in relation to this piece of legislation. Still, he uses that as his whole basis for seeking asylum. That we are now voting through laws that are directed against him as a person. Okay, so he goes to the United States. He has sought asylum now. And after he sought asylum, or while he's seeking asylum, and before that, he continues his activities in the United States. And it kind of culminated a month or so ago, where he had found a new cult compound, a new place to use as the center for his worldwide activities. And that's the compound that is situated about an hour's drive from where you now live. Up in, he actually Torben posted a video on his the Last Reformation channel this morning, where he told people that he had now got a working permit, even.
Well, it was probably this morning for you, but it was last night for me because I saw it.
Yeah, it was.
He said that he's about 5 minutes from a state park by the name of South Mountain. The thing about that state park, I've actually camped at that state park. I've hiked at that state park, and I know that park. That the park is massive. In of itself, but I couldn't really tell exactly pinpoint where in South Mountain he was, but yeah, I've been through there several times, and I just face palmed like a motherfucker whenever he said that.
Yeah. I mean, if you camp there again. Well, now it would be a bit too cold for that, but you could run. But if you were hiking there, just late one afternoon, you could run into him. It seems.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. South Mountain State Park. I looked it up earlier because I figured this might come up. It's actually, the size of the state park is about 20,600 and something acres. Or about 83.5 square kilometers. So it's a fairly sizable park, but that's why I said he could be anywhere within South Mountain. But yeah. Well,
he actually disclosed the address of the compound, and I'll put that up on my channel as soon as I get the next video made. It's it's in no, it's not in editing hell. It's in scripting hell right now, and it's going to concern the harm that he is doing to particularly children. There are loads to go over there, and we can come back to that as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't I just the reason, I guess, why we are using time on him, why it is important to deal with him would be important to get through in this stream. So why don't we continue? Why don't I just continue a bit talking about what harm he does and how he operates?
All right. I just did have one question. You said about him you mentioned that he did exorcisms and faith healings. Like, what did those entail? Like, what did he do during those?
And that's actually what I was going to go on about now. So let's go right into it.
Okay.
What he does is basically this is these practices of faith healing and exorcism and also baptizing are very, very central to his theology, and they are very central activities in his cult generally. It's something that he basically the primary activities of his cults are two kinds of courses. One is called the Kickstart course and goes on over a weekend, which also prepares to a longer course that takes 3 weeks. It's a long time. That's called the Pioneer Training School. And basically, what you're taught there is to pray for people, do faith healing, and do exorcisms, and also do baptism. So, what they do concretely when they do the faith healing is they will start praying for someone, and that's when they start laying hands on people and say, whatever, in Jesus' name, heal this person for the aching whatever, shoulder, knee, elbow, fingertip, whatever.
Yeah.
And they do that for some time, and then they ask the person if they feel better. And quite often, the people that have undergone this faith healing, because it's a suggestive process of some kind, people will claim that it doesn't hurt anymore. Which may not be very strange, because if for example we say they have pain in their elbow or whatever, and they have it stretched out while someone is putting your hand on it, actually the relaxing alone will make it ache a bit less for the minutes after. It will, and also the only thing that you will see on the video where they do this is, of course, that people tell Torben, or who's ever doing the faith healing, that, it helped, now I'm cured. And 15 minutes later, the pain will of course be back. It's not doing anything what they're doing. So that would be the faith healing. The faith healing also, but sometimes it's more. It's much more violent than that, much more dramatic. What happens sometimes is that during the process of healing, there's the claim that there's a demon behind this ailment, whichever ailment it might be. This would be, I guess, more prevalent with people who have mental issues. And that's where it goes on to be types of abuse, when they will stand still, hands on the one who's being healed or exorcised, and that's when they will start shouting at them, "Come out! come out in the name of Jesus, come out in the name of Jesus. And sometimes the response that the ones who are being healed will give to that is that they will start ringing and flailing and screaming, and which in turn will make the one who's doing the exorcism scream even louder, and getting the people participating to flail and scream and do about even more than they were doing already. So it's a positive feedback loop, typically ending with the one being healed being absolutely exhausted, lying down on the floor, and that's when the one healing will rise and say, "You're now healed."
Mm-hmm.
Well, they may actually have caused mental trauma, sometimes even physical trauma due to the commotion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that faith healing stuff, it never works. So
it never works, and it's harmful because it's a mental. Mentally, it's a rough ordeal, and it can be physically as well, as they're flailing around. We've all seen the video. I don't know if people have seen it, but I've seen lots of videos of faith healing where you see the preachers actually throwing people on the stage, people falling over with no one to catch them. That can be really hurt. Not only painful, that can be hurtful as well.
Yeah, there was one video I saw on Facebook where it was a faith healer who literally took this black woman who was probably in her 50s or 60s and literally threw her over like 2 rows of chairs. It was it was probably a different video, but that was one that I saw and I was like, seriously, you're gonna kill this woman. So oftentimes faith healing will do more harm than it will good.
Yes, definitely. Because if you're lucky, it will do absolutely nothing. That's the best it will do, in my humble opinion. Okay, so that would be the meat of the problematic practices of the Last Reformation. Now the thing is that, as I said, it's organized in courses where they teach people how to do this, how to, and they call it discipleship. That's what they call it, to teach people how to do faith healing and exorcism. And then I think it's I'm not that much into specific Bible verses, even though I did study religion. But I think is it Matthew 10 where Jesus says, "Go out and be disciples"?
I don't remember right off. I had a Bible that I used when I was a Catholic over here on the bookshelf, but I don't know where it is right now.
Never mind. It's not a very good book anyway.
Not
poorly written.
Yeah, it's got quite a few typos.
But I think it's Matthew 10, but I'm not. Anyway, there is a chapter where Jesus says, "Go out and be disciples," and that's what has inspired Torben to these practices. So that and Acts, if we want to get into the meat of the theology. The thing is, he has taught on his cult compound in Denmark some people to do these practices. And some of those people, don't remember the names right now, but it will be in my next video. They went to Indonesia and they basically took over an orphanage there and did all these practices on the children. They exorcised the children. They did faith healing on them, and they and sometimes doing so while the children were baptized. Now, the practice of baptism in the Last Reformation is basically to put the people down all the way underwater, and that would be in whatever is available. And quite often, not always, but quite often, the only larger container that is big enough to hold an adult person or even a child is a dumpster. So there are actually a lot of videos, even on the Last Reformation's own channel, where you see people being baptized in dumpsters full of water that the day before may have been used for, garbage, diapers, food leftovers. It's horrible to think of.
Yeah, I actually remembered I had a Bible on my phone. It is Matthew 10. If you want to go through like the entire quote, it's 5 through the rest, chapter 10, verse 5 through the rest of the chapter, which is verse 5 through 42. But for just that little short thing, it is
we have a troll in the comments.
Verse 5 and 6. So
okay, I'm a bit impressed by myself, but also a bit scared that I remembered correctly.
Yeah.
Also, sorry, I interrupted you. We have a troll in the comments, just so you notice.
Yeah, I've seen him, but I'm kind of commenting from my personal account, so I can't really do anything.
Okay.
Yes, I can, because I've got a wrench, but I'm not going to really do anything right now because he's in Neil's streams as well, doing a lot of the same thing. So
okay. Well,
I just ignore him.
Let the child have his fun.
Kids shall play.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what he's doing to children. Now, if we move on to what he's doing to adults, in the documentary, you meet a number of families, at least 2, as I remember it, one from Germany and one from Sweden, at the compound at a meeting. I would guess it would be at either Kickstart or at a pioneer training school, the longer 3-week long courses. But these people are actually telling how they not only came there for a course, but they actually moved there, which means they would have quit their jobs, sold their homes in order to travel to Denmark to Torben's cult compound, which is in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's the region here is very remote, rural, and very quiet.
And it's pretty much the same in the mountains. It's very like out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, he's attracted to those places now that you mention it. But they went from their homes in Germany / Sweden, sold all they had to live with Torben, and I have contact with some of his former associates. I mentioned them in my last video, where I said they were some new sources, and they indeed are. And they told me that when they came to live actually at his compound, at this former boarding school of athletics. And so, and what is going to happen then is that they may not donate all the money they got for the property and all that to him right away, but they will need to pay rent to live there, and they'll need to pay for the food and whatever. So over a few months, maybe a year, all that they had got for the property in Germany and Sweden would be used for living in the cult compound. And after that, they have absolutely nothing. So he's luring a lot of finances out of people, not necessarily by persuading people to donate it all in one go, but he'll find ways to rid people of the money.
As do pretty much every other religion.
Yeah. However, the cults in particular, and he is as bad as all the others. There are, however, some interesting traits which makes the Last Reformation differ a bit from many other cults, and that's actually the level of disorganization. As I mentioned earlier, Torben has a lot of abandoned and failed projects behind him. A lot of churches and, as I said, a number of businesses as well who had the name Jesus attached to them.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems as if at one point when he came up with he had the website Experience Jesus, and that actually went okay until he left for the United States. Then that was also put down. However, with the Last Reformation and organizing it through courses, it actually seems that he has found a form that works with his lack of management skills. Because what he can do is have a course or two, do a course or two. People will attend. Give him some money for whatever the course is costing. And he will get a bit of that. Some of them will then go on to do other courses. There's a bit of a pyramid structure there, from which he will also gain a bit of money. But he doesn't really need to care the people that he's teaching. And this is also the case with the people who went to Indonesia to take over that orphanage, which is, by the way, in the meantime closed. And I can't help but thinking what may have happened to those kids living there. That's a digression. I'll get back to that. But the thing is, now that he has organized it all through the courses that he's making, he doesn't need to care about what those people who attended those courses are doing when they then go out in the world to proselytize and do the harmful things that he taught them. It's not really his responsibility anymore, and he doesn't need to worry about the project being too big for him to manage, because it kind of takes on its own life.
Mm-hmm.
And just to go back to the Indonesian orphanage again, it's actually documented on video that they are coming to the orphanage, and there's a big party and there's some activities and stuff like that. And the children there, as far as I can see, are actually relatively, as far as I can see, they are well off. I mean, they look happy, they look well fed, they look they have proper clothes, and they are clean, all that. So it's not like that it was the worst of all orphanages they went into. It seemed to be well functioning, and the kids were there, seemed to be doing all right. And now it's closed because Torben Søndergaard and his cult.
Wow.
So people in North Carolina, be careful who you bump into. And what was the name of that resort, that park again?
South Mountain.
South Mountain. Okay. Be careful who you bump into at South Mountain.
Yep. Yeah, it's like I said earlier, it's a massive park, but never know who you're going to bump into.
No, exactly.
Considering that he is a 5-minute drive from, or 5 miles away from it.
Yeah. Another interesting nugget of information about the cult. It's not like much as it has kind of a flat structure. There's Torben and a few people very, very close to him. And that's, so to say, the top of the organization. Those would be very, very few people, very, very few select people. And then there are all the others. And basically all the others, that's people who at some time attended a course and are bringing those ideas on out into the world. The only thing that keeps people together is online activity. So every course that has been made will also have a Facebook group, and people will stay in touch through these Facebook groups, and will be encouraged to continue the practices, baptize people, do faith healing and exorcism, and also the videos that Torben is constantly putting on the Last Reformation YouTube channel will also be peddled there. And there's a huge amount of videos. I don't know if you've checked it out
on the Last Reformation channel. I've checked out a few of them. I'm not like gonna try and binge watch their channel, but I have checked out a few of their videos.
Yeah. It's not. You don't really need to watch any of them to have an impression of what a huge load of videos there is there. I mean, and it goes many years back, and there's well over 1,000 videos there, and some of them are very, very long.
Yeah, they are.
And as one of his associates told me, an important part of the indoctrination into the Last Reformation cult is actually to watch the videos. When you're going to the Kickstart course, for example, that was the one that was going over a weekend, you're encouraged to watch two documentaries. One is called The Beginning, and the other is called The Life. And I ended up watching The Life. It's quite well produced, actually. However, the content is really, really boring and one-sided stuff about how everyone in the documentary was healed for this and that, and not just an introduction, but it just goes on and on, the same thing all the time, and it kind of is supposed to, I guess, to some extent, lull you into to a state where you don't really care, but you just take it in passively. And if you get that feeling from one documentary, think how it would be with two documentaries that you're supposed to watch before the Kickstart event. And then there's the Pioneer Training School, and there's also a video curriculum for that. And those would be videos where Torben is standing in front of a whiteboard, teaching the ideology, propaganda, the theology of the Last Reformation. And I think there's a playlist of, is it 28 videos, and none of them are less than an hour long. Wow. Some of them are 1.5 hour long. So before attending the Pioneer Training School, you're supposed to watch well over 24 hours of video.
Wow.
Just think how that would be, just to needing to watch that whole thing through.
Yeah, I know. That's crazy. That would really suck.
It is. Oh, you're actually looking it up?
No, I was typing in the chat. I had a classmate of mine pop in here, just saying some stuff and just chatting, and then I was like, hey, I'm saying that this is gay AF, which it's more of a young person's lingo, just saying this is kind of like weird because he's watching me because he's not used to watching my channel.
Okay.
And I'm just like, hey, I'm LGBTQ plus positive on here, so.
Oh, so am I. So
yeah, try and verge off of using some of that heterosexual lingo.
Yeah, it would be nice.
So, but anyways, let's continue on.
Yeah. So let's see. Where did I end? Well, we've been to, I would say, the most important parts. I could go on to talk about the specifics of the theology and stuff like that. But I mean, the most important thing, and the reason why we are having this live stream is that I want to raise awareness about what the Last Reformation does, and in particular, what kind of harm it does to grown-ups as well as to children. So when I found out that you were living in North Carolina, close to where he set up his camp, I found it very important to reach out to you and to make you aware that he's there and of the harm that he does, so that people will know, basically.
Yeah, and I mean the kids, especially the younger kids, like the Catholic Church loves to get in there, the 4 to 14 range, or the 4 to 14 window. Younger kids are going to be the most vulnerable to indoctrination. So the best thing would be to try and keep any kind of kids, more than a stone's throw away from that place.
Yes. And the kids are typically brought into his cult by the parents. The parents find that would at least be young kids. But we have had incidents as well with cult leaders in Denmark luring young adults in. And that's when the sexual abuse. That's where the sexual abuse typically takes place. That actually reminds me. So you would want to be aware if you hear about anyone in your area that are attending a meeting, and again, it's centered around these causes. So if you hear about someone attending a Kickstart meeting, or maybe even a Pioneer Training School, that's when that's a red flag, and because that is one of his causes. And if you even hear that they are bringing their children as well, I mean, that is where they would get the children in also.
I was gonna say about God damn it, now I just lost it. I lost what I was gonna ask. I don't know, it'll come back to me. But what was I gonna say? I don't know. Keep going on.
I'll continue. Yes, because I remembered and another little thing. It's not the first time that Denmark exported cult issues to the United States. We've done that before. We had someone called, and he was actually a partner with Torben Søndergaard in one of Torben's earlier failed projects. A guy called Christian Hedegaard, Christian Hedegaard in Danish, Christian Hedegaard, and he runs a church in Orlando, Florida now. It's called the Power Church, he. Sorry, no, I kind of lost the thread here. He actually returned. He returned a couple of weeks ago to Denmark, just shortly. Now, Christian Hedegaard was actually convicted. He was actually convicted of quackery, because he took away drugs from mentally sick people. He did faith healing on mentally sick people, probably did some exorcism as well, which would have exacerbated their mental issues. And then he took away their medication, saying that now you're cured by the power of Jesus Christ. Now you don't need your medication anymore. And he was actually convicted of that. I'm not sure if he did jail time. I think he got a suspended sentence, but he would have got quite the fine. And after that, he left for the United States and founded the Powerhouse Church in Orlando, Florida. So anyone from Florida listening, be aware of that guy as well. And then there is Christian Rayburn. A lot of these cult leaders from Denmark are called Christian. That's the serendipity.
It works.
It works. Well, Torben isn't. But anyway, he's one of the really sleazy ones. He actually also went to Florida and founded a church after he got some heat in Denmark when rumors were arising that he was abusing young adults in his church sexually. And at one time in Florida, he got in trouble after he made his new church for serving alcohol to minors. So he went back to Denmark, where he was where there was a warrant for his arrest because of the accusations that he was doing sexual harassment. For some reason, he doesn't go to a third country or somewhere where he could be. Where he could continue his activities. For some reason, he goes back to Denmark, where he, in the airport, the second he steps out of the plane, gets arrested. And he's in prison now, and he'll be for 3 years.
Oh, so I know. Well, finish up what you were going to say. I remember what I was going to ask.
Cool. Great. So just to say, we've had some pretty bad examples already that we are exporting these people to you, and I kind of feel obliged to do the cleanup after it that I could do by at least raising awareness. One of the other accusations against Christian Rayburn, the one who served alcohol to minors in Florida, was also that he, during one of his, he threw parties and, he threw wild parties at his church. It wasn't really that church-like when, at the end of the day, and supposedly there was a session where he sprinkled people with lighter fluid and threatened to set them on fire. And he forced a young adult to eat his own puke. Those were at least some of the accusations, besides the sexual abuse. So that was absolutely horrible what he did. But as I said, he's in prison now, so yeah, at least that's something.
Yeah, I was going to ask too. Like I said, I just remember what I was going to ask. Obviously, being a cult, they would have the kids brought in as well, but with the 2 education programs, quote unquote, that he has in his cult, is there, or if there is, then what would be the difference between the children's education programs and the adult ones? Would the children's ones be more harsh or less, or not harsh, but more indoctrinated? Or
for all that I know, he doesn't have any specific programs directed at children.
Okay.
And as I said, in some respects, it's not. It's an atypical cult. First of all, because it's rather disorganized, and one of the ways that it is disorganized is that, for example, the schooling is very basic, to say it in a diplomatic way. It's not that well thought through. Basically, it's just you have these 4 points, as I said: faith, healing, exorcism, baptizing. Oh yeah, and talking in tongues. Also important. And those are the 4 things that willy-nilly are taught by people who show you how to do it. And once they have showed how you do it, and that's kind of just it. the more structured teaching, if there is any, would be what you find on the YouTube channel and in his books. He wrote 2 books, aren't worth a read. But and most of all, I would say would be the YouTube channel. The videos there is the backbone of the teaching.
Okay.
Okay, I don't have much more, but I think there's one thing I just thought of. Are you familiar with a YouTuber called Martimer81?
No.
He's cool. He's really cool. He goes a long way back. He's debunking woo. He was debunking flat earthers, and he debunks all kinds of woo. First of all, spirit science. That's his big thing, which he debunks. But he was on my channel. We had a chat about our childhoods. He's from Sweden, so he's right next to where I live, basically, at least on a global level.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, there were so many problems with lag and the stream falling out and sound falling out, and we have had nothing of that. And there is a huge ocean between us. I find that a bit funny.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
But shout out to Marima.
All right. Yeah. But yeah. So, I guess I can say where I found out about this is obviously from you, but this was on the an after party on Neil's channel. If anybody isn't sure of where I found out about this originally. So yeah,
Neil the 604 atheist.
Yeah.
Not just any Neil.
Well, yeah.
Not Neil from the Young Ones.
Considering if anybody in here is new to the atheist community. So yeah, Neil the 604 atheist. Awesome channel, awesome guy, fellow musician. So yeah.
You play the guitar?
Yes. And sing.
Okay. I used to play the bagpipes for a number of years.
Yeah, this is actually my my new guitar that I got.
Looks great.
A guitar that I've been wanting for like a year and a half. That a lot of people that have followed me for a while have known that I've been wanting it. This was the guitar that I had featured in told people about in my channel birthday stream. But yeah, I finally was able to get it. I'm currently working on an EP right now.
Oh, cool.
I'll be releasing the EP under an actual band name instead of my name. The band name is going to be called Offspring of Lilith, or is called Offspring of Lilith.
Cool.
And yeah, so I'll be releasing an EP around New Year's 2020.
Which reminds me, Lilith was on that live stream as well.
Yes. Yep.
Along with Renee, who was the one that Neil had a short time in advanced interviewed.
Yeah, and speaking of Neil, he's just popped in the chat, so hola to you.
Cool. That's a bit sad. We are almost finished as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I don't know if you were able to catch it, Neil, but I did get the BC Rich, so I'm not going to pull it back off again because considering it almost just fell over, but I'll have it on your live or on your after party tonight if you have one.
Cool.
So let's continue on.
Yeah. I don't know if I have so much more. So if you have any questions, ask away.
Or if the chat has any questions as well,
Yeah,
chat's open. Ask away. And if you do ask any questions, make sure to just tag my personal account, Zach Brown, in there. I've been chatting a little bit, but make sure to tag me so I'll see it and it pops up at me. So.
Yeah, I could repeat just here that I am working on a new video about Torben, specifically about the harm that he does to children when he's doing his when doing faith healing. So I'm also trying to find some articles, some sciencey stuff about the harm of faith healing and exorcism. So if anyone has any tips to what I should go and read, I would really appreciate if you could send me that in links to my Twitter account. And I understand you were linking to my Twitter account in the description.
Yeah, I have the link to your Twitter in the description.
Cool. It doesn't really seem as if any questions are coming up. However, if there are any questions, if anyone is watching the live stream now and thinking of questions afterwards, do send me them on Twitter, and I will answer them to the best of my knowledge. And also, if you're watching this after the live stream, any questions, I'm there to answer them as well as I can. I actually just minutes before the live stream, I found out that I got in touch with someone who was basically a neighbor to the former cult compound up here where I live, and I'll see if I can. I have a few questions there about how it wasn't, and I'll see if I can get something out of that as well. Very interesting Danish man. You're so kind, Yuri Bench. Yeah, I don't think there will be any questions to be honest.
Or a bench said that they asked a question. I don't see where it's at unless the interesting Danish man was the question. I'm not really sure.
Yuri Bench, he or she should repeat that question, because I can't find it in the chat neither.
Yeah, unless, like I said, unless the very interesting Danish man was the question, but I'm not really sure.
I don't think so.
Which, if that was the question, then no, Torben is not very interesting unless you're interested in cults.
No, he really isn't. He has a level of charisma. You have to grant him that. But the next thing that characterizes him is his level of being disorganized. I mean, he wants to start all these projects, and all of them fail. And that's a basic character trait that he has. He doesn't come off too bright as a cult leader, and it's all his projects, including the Last Reformation to an extent, are influenced by the fact that he can't follow through on the projects that he is starting, and this one, instead of just failing, it kind of took on its own life. And I don't think he's actually in charge of all that is going on. and the question is to which extent he could be held responsible to the harm that his ideas are doing when he himself is not personally involved.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that I'm sometimes considering.
Let's see. Unstructured Understanding just said, stating Kalmar, Sweden for a month felt like home, good folks all around, more churches than I expected, but few signs of cults.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same in Denmark. I mean, in that respect, Denmark and Sweden are pretty much alike. The thing is, in Denmark and in Sweden, Christianity has a very, very long and strong history. So you will see churches everywhere. And there are a number of explanations for why we have so many churches and so few cults. And one being that, I mean, in Denmark, we actually have a state church. State and church is not separated in Denmark. And a lot of people say that because religion is so organized through a state church, the motivation for starting cults is much smaller. And there's a level of truth to that. However, I don't think it's just because of that. It is also because the educational level in Denmark and Sweden is pretty high.
Or a bench. I'm guessing that was a timestamp. They said 2022. I don't.
Is it a comment on the video?
Maybe. At the same time, considering it's a live stream, they could be doing 2022 as an actual timestamp, which would be 8:22 p.m. But I don't know, because I'm looking. I'm going back and forth up and down the chat because I have the chat popped out of the YouTube live stream. And I don't.
There are no comments. I have to admit I don't see it neither.
Yeah, I don't either. Otherwise, we would be answering your question, but we don't see it. So, I think best thing to do right now is to just repeat the question.
Yeah.
Or just copy and paste the question.
We want the question.
Yeah, I don't see it. All right. Well, considering what we've talked about, you said you had a bunch of notes on him. Is there anything else that you haven't talked about yet that you've scribbled down?
Not really. No. I did check out a video by a fellow YouTuber. He's called Not John, but he's not active on that channel anymore. He's got a Danish channel where he's very active. It's called Rockvi. He's a former. No, he's not a former hypnotist. He's a practicing hypnotist, and he explained in a number of videos the techniques that Torben is using when he's doing faith healing and exorcism, and how it is actually a kind of hypnotism that is being done. He has a video where he has a full timeline in English of all that Torben did, and that's some. I did notice all of them. So just to go through, I could go through the timeline of what he had former projects. So what happens is that Torben was born in 1976. On April the 5th, 1994. No, wait. So what happens is that in 1992, his mother gets a stroke, and she's paralyzed 1.5 years later. However, she doesn't. She survives, and he sees that as a sign of God that leads to an awakening experience on the 5th of April, 1995. He's one of these people who knows exactly in which date and actually which time of the date he was born again. And then he let's see, he joins a church, a local church in the town of Brande, where he lived at that time, which is called the Word of the Faith, which he leaves in the year 2000 because he is rejected as a leader of that church. He starts a church immediately after himself, which then closes very shortly after that. And he writes a book in the year 2001, and his claim is that he is writing the book on a dictate directly from God, who dictates one chapter to him every day for 11 days. The book is sold from the year 2004. So he allegedly writes the book in 2001 in 11 days, but doesn't sell it until 2004. I wonder why. In 2003, he opens the Jesus shop, in Danish, Jesusbutikken, and it closes immediately after. In 2003 also, he, let me just see, I can't read my own handwriting. He invites someone called Todd Bentley, some dude with a very long beard. I have to admit I haven't heard about him, but he was already at that time a convicted quack. And I guess he would be a preacher of some kind. Torben opens the Jesus Clinic in 2003.
Yeah, I think you're frozen. Unless you're just standing really still. Yep, there you go.
Whoop, there you go. Okay. The Jesus Clinic he opens in 2003 also, and that shuts down immediately after as well. He opens the Jesus Teams, which is some kind of educational project the same year, 2003, and that shuts down immediately again, and that's because Torben is inept at teaching. I was telling about that early on. In 2005, he starts the Jesus Academy and hires Christian Hedegaard. That's the guy from Florida, Orlando, who has the Powerhouse Church now. He hires him as a teacher, and that was the one who was also a convicted quack. He took away the medication from mentally ill people. From 2004 through 2007, he actually managed to start an organization called the Jesus House. But all the leaders, the elders of the Jesus House leave the organization in 2007. Obviously, because they can't stand the company of Torben Søndergaard, I guess. Mm-hmm. In 2006. Torben Søndergaard is threatening a Danish theologist, someone called Bjørn Langkær. He would probably be a priest in the Danish state church. And those are educated people. They know what they're talking about. And this guy, Bjørn Langkær, was writing a book about cults. And for some reason, Torben Søndergaard felt offended by that. In 2007, he starts another house church, which shuts down immediately after. It only consists of 2 persons anyway. Let me see. In 2008, Torben Søndergaard and Christian Hedegaard, the guy from Orlando again, are thrown out of a small Danish festival because of quackery. And Torben Søndergaard actually posted a number of videos where he went to Nibe Festival. That's in northern Denmark, not very far from where I'm living either. And they were thrown out for quackery, it seems. So what they would have been doing was doing faith healing on the people attending the festival. I can understand why the arrangers would be dissatisfied with that. In 2009, he founds the Jesus Radio, which shuts down the year after. And yeah, and so that's a list. That's the list of all his failed projects through from 1995 and on. He founds the Experience Jesus website in 2000, and that actually exists for 19 years. It shut down when he was leaving for the United States, as I already told. So that would be his long-standing project until now.
Okay.
But then again, it's just a website. I mean, as long as you pay the relative meager amount for having it, it's not really anything.
Yeah. And we did get 2 questions, really. One of them is from Unstructured. The other one is from Orabench.
Cool.
I'm just going to go in the order of the chat. So Unstructured understanding, are Moonies a thing in Europe? Since they stopped wearing orange, they are hard to spot.
They exist, but we don't hear much about them. And I have never seen a proselytizing Moonie on the streets anywhere in Europe.
All right. And then the one from Orabench, in Israel, where I come from, and throughout the world, caste leaders are taking advantage of their status to obtain sex from women under their influence. Does the story repeat in this case as well?
Not that I know of, and not that I have yet heard of.
Okay.
He, again, I mean, in order to gain that kind of trust so that you can sexually abuse someone, as I said, he has a level of charisma, but not that level of charisma. I mean, you've seen videos of him.
Yeah.
And also well, that didn't help. That did, of course. That's not a very good argument, but I will use it anyway. I mean, he has a wife and family, and they seem relatively happy, and they are also involved in the cult scheme. So I guess that's a motivation for him not to screw around with that, because that might get him divorced, and then I mean,
and even more trouble.
Yeah, he would get in even more trouble. And my dips would be on that. One reason that he has actually been able to maintain the Last Reformation for so long is that his wife is in on it somehow, and she might she might have some managing skills that he completely lacks. And if he loses that, the whole Last Reformation project will be in shambles. So I guess there's a reason why he hasn't done that. Makes sense to me, at least.
Yeah, it's understandable.
But a good question, by the way, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Because there are so many cults and religions that do take full advantage of that. That
the third Danish cult leader that went to the US, the one who's now in prison, Christian Rayburn, he did that. He exploited his proselytes sexually. In as far as the stories go, in orgy-like parties.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the saying goes, power corrupts. So.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't. There's no more questions in here in the chat. Yeah. I don't. And unless you have anything else to add, I think I'm gonna go ahead and
really
close this off.
No.
No. All right. Well, I guess I'll go ahead and close this live stream off. Once again, thank you all for watching. As I said at the beginning of the video, the link to Hopswatch's YouTube and Twitter accounts are in the description down below. I just got sidetracked by the chat. So once again, his YouTube channel and his Twitter account are in the description down below. So go ahead and subscribe to him and follow him on Twitter. I wanted to kind of make a just out there announcement. If you follow me on Twitter, I started a competition between myself and Bemilzebub to see who could hit 500 subscribers first, preferably by Thanksgiving. So go ahead and help me out, help me win the race to 500 subscribers, and help me get there before he does. So with all that being said, just want to say thank you to Hopswatch for joining me, informing us all of Torben Søndergaard, and hopefully we'll not have to have anybody have him spread too much around North Carolina.
No.
Or the United States for that matter.
If I could just say one last thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
The thing I always say at the end of my videos.
Go ahead.
Always remember to drink responsibly.
I'm out of sweet tea, so I don't know how responsible that is.
Not very. Not at all. I'm out of beer. And until next time, cheers.
Cheers. And as I say on mine, until the next video, stay skeptical, my friends, and I'll see y'all in the next video.